Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? Not the kind of alone that comes from silence. The kind that follows you into crowded rooms, busy streets, and loud conversations. But what if the cure for loneliness is not finding more people, but finally meeting yourself? Our journey today begins with a man who had everything except himself. Daniel Mercer had what most people call a full life. A respected architect in New York, an apartment overlooking the river, a calendar packed with meetings, dinners, and events. Every day began with coffee, endless messages, and a pace too quick to notice what truly mattered. Because beneath all that motion, something inside him had quietly gone missing. At night, after the city quieted, Daniel would lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling a strange emptiness he could never explain. Not sadness, not depression, just a quiet sense that something in his life wasn't real, as if he were acting in a story written for someone else. Yet, completely surrounded, no one noticed. Not his co-workers, not his friends, not even the people who said they knew him best. Because in all those years, no one had ever asked him a simple question. Daniel, are you actually happy? The moment that changed everything happened on a Sunday. Daniel attended a large dinner party hosted by an old college friend. Amidst clinking glasses and conversations about promotions, Daniel smiled politely, nodded, laughed when everyone else laughed. But halfway through the evening, he realized something unsettling. If he quietly stood up and left that room, no one would notice. Not immediately, maybe not at all. The realization hit him like cold water. He finished his drink and walked out into the cool night air. That evening he went home, sat at his kitchen table, and made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He left his job, sold his belongings, and bought a one-way ticket to a 700-year-old monastery in Umbria. A place of stone walls, ancient olive trees, and profound, unbroken silence. His friends thought he was losing his mind. His colleagues assumed he would return in a few weeks. But Daniel knew something they didn't. He wasn't escaping the world. He was trying to escape the noise. The first nights were unbearable. No traffic, no notifications. Just wind through stone corridors and distant bells. Without the noise of his normal life, Daniel had to face something he had been avoiding for years. His own thoughts. Buried memories and regrets surfaced. Words he had never said to the people he loved. For days he barely slept. His mind felt like a crowded room with no doors. But slowly, something began to shift. One morning before sunrise, Daniel walked through the monastery garden. The sky was pale blue. The hills were wrapped in mist. Birds moved quietly through the olive trees. And for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about emails, or deadlines, or what someone expected from him. He simply stood there, breathing, listening, feeling the cold morning air on his face. For the first time in years, he finally exhaled. Not from sadness, but from an overwhelming sense of relief. A few weeks later, Daniel met Brother Matteo, an elderly monk who had lived in the monastery for nearly 4 decades. One afternoon, they sat together on a stone bench overlooking the valley. After a long silence, Daniel asked the question that had been sitting in his chest for years. "Brother Matteo, don't you ever feel lonely here?" The old monk smiled gently. Then he said something Daniel would never forget. "My friend, loneliness does not come from being alone." He tapped his chest softly. "It comes from being a stranger to yourself." Daniel looked puzzled. The monk continued. "You can be lonely in a marriage, lonely at a party, lonely with 10,000 followers." Then he gestured toward the quiet hills stretching into the distance. "But when you learn to enjoy the company of your own heart, you are never truly alone." Those words stayed with Daniel long after the conversation ended, because he realized something uncomfortable. For most of his life, he had avoided his own company. He had filled every empty moment with noise, work, and endless surface-level conversations. Anything to avoid the silence. Anything to avoid meeting himself. Months passed. Daniel stayed longer than he had planned. He began waking before sunrise, walking the stone paths through the hills, writing in a journal he had brought but never used. At first, the pages were messy, thoughts scattered everywhere. But slowly his writing became clearer, more honest, more real. Eventually, he began sharing short reflections online. Not about architecture, not about success. He wrote about the weight of silence, about self-discovery, about learning to sit with your own thoughts without fear. To his surprise, thousands of people began reading them. Messages poured in from around the world. People with busy lives who all said the same thing. "I feel exactly the same way. I thought I was the only one." Daniel realized something powerful. Loneliness wasn't rare. It was everywhere, hidden behind busy schedules and smiling photos. But the solution had never been more noise. It had always been connection. Not with the world, with yourself. Daniel never fully returned to his old life in New York. Instead, he built something new. A small retreat near the monastery. A quiet place where people could step away from the noise for a while. Not to escape life, but to rediscover it. Because the truth is simple, yet hard to accept. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness happens when we lose touch with ourselves. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do in a loud world is sit quietly long enough to hear your own voice again. Now I'm curious about something. Have you ever felt lonely, even when surrounded by people? If you have, write "I understand" in the comments. Not just for me, but for the thousands of people reading the comments who might realize they're not alone in feeling this way. And if this story spoke to you, share it with someone who might need a quiet reminder today. And subscribe to Tales of Life and Wisdom for more stories that help us slow down, think deeper, and reconnect with what truly matters.